Alright, here we go. Section 7.8.1 about loss division. This is the same loss division that you learned in elementary school, but it's going to end up being with polynomials. We're going to start with these basic examples. So let's review. Start with 68 divided by 2. Let me talk through the examples that's already done here. This is so simple, we know the answer is 34, but we're reviewing the process of long division. And the first thing that we do is we are dividing by the 2, so we ask ourselves, how many times does 2 go into 6? And we put that number up above. Obviously, 2 goes into 6 3 times. Then we multiply 3 times 2, and we get 6 right there. And now we subtract. 6 minus 6 equals 0. Then we bring down the 8. So we have the number 8. And we ask ourselves, how many times does 2 go into 8? And we put the answer right there. It goes into 8 4 times. Then we multiply 4 times 2, and we get 8. And we subtract them, and we end up with a remainder of 0. So this means that 68 divided by 2 equals 34. It means that 2 goes into 68 a whole number of times. It means 2 is a factor of 68. All of those pieces are important. We're going to take 965 and divide it by 5. So we start by asking how many times does 5 go into 9? And it goes into 9 once. 1 times 5 is 5. Now we subtract. 9 minus 5 is 4. Bring down the 6 and we get 46. How many times does 5 go into 46? Well, it goes into 46 9 times. 9 times 5 is 45. Subtract. 46 minus 45 is 1. Bring down the 5 and we have 15. How many times does 5 go into 50? 3. 3 times 5 is 15. We subtract. We get 0. That means there's a 0 remainder. So we know 965 divided by 5 equals 193, which also means that 5 is a factor of 965 because there was a 0 remainder. Okay, so 187 divided by 32. Obviously, 32 doesn't go into 4, so that would be a 0, but you don't have to put this 0 up here. You can just go now to asking how many times does 32 go into 48. It goes in once. Now we put that over the 8 because we're talking about the 48. So then we multiply 1 times 32 and get 32, and we subtract that. We get 16, that's the difference. Now we bring down the 7. How many times does 32 go into 167? 5 times. 5 times 32 is 160. Now we subtract it, and in this case, we actually have a remainder of 7. Now what this means is that 32 is not a factor of 487, because it doesn't go into 487 a whole number of times. Now what we do sometimes, whenever we have a remainder, we write our answer as 15 and 7/30 seconds would be our answer. So in this example, as I said, it's already done. 43 does not go into 4, obviously. So we ask, how many times does 43 go into 49? And of course, it goes in once. And 1 times 43 is 43, so we see that very clearly. Do the subtraction. 49 minus 43 is 6. Bring down the next 6. How many times does 43 go into 66? Goes in once. 1 times 43 is 43. Do that subtraction, and you get 23. Bring down with 2. How many times does 43 go into 232? Well, it ends up being 5 times. 5 times 43 is 215. Do that subtraction, you get 17. Bring down the final 2 and make it 172. How many times does 43 go into 172? 4 times. 4 times 43 is 172. So in this case, we end up with a remainder of 0, which means that 43 is a factor of 49,622. So we're taking 16,011, we're dividing it by 15. Obviously 15 doesn't go into 1, so we go to the next digit, 15 into 16, that's 1 time. 1 times 15 is 15. Subtract it, we get 1. Bring down the 0. 15 doesn't go into 10, so in other words, it goes into 10 0 times. 0 times 15 is 0. Subtract, we get 10. Bring down the 1 for 101. How many times does 15 go into 101? 6 times 15 is 90. Subtract, we get 11. Bring down the other 1, get 111. How many times does 15 go into 111? 7 times. 7 times 15 105. So subtract here, we end up with a remainder of 6. So we can write it as 1,067 and 6/15. Now 6/15 could also be reduced. Normally we would reduce that to 2/5. Alright, so this is our first example of long division with polynomials. We have the polynomial 6x cubed minus 19x squared plus 16x minus 4. And we're dividing that polynomial by x minus 2. So you can see what that looks like in terms of writing it in long division. We have the longer polynomial under the division sign, and we have x minus 2 out here. Now, the way that we go about doing this is we take the first term here, x, and we ask, how many times does x go into 6x cubed, the first term? Well, so in other words, what times x gives us 6x cubed? Well, 6x squared times x gives us 6x cubed. Alright, now, the next thing that we do here is we also take the 6x squared and we multiply it by the negative 2. So 6x squared times negative 2 is negative 12x squared. And then, just like with the long division with the numbers that we did in the other examples, we subtract. That's the next step. So, we do 6x cubed minus 6x cubed, which is 0, right? And we do negative 19x squared minus a negative 12x squared, which we know is the same thing as 19x squared plus 12x squared. So that comes out to be negative 7x squared. Then we bring down the next term, which is the positive 16x. And we actually bring down all of the terms that remain, because we're going to do the process totally over again. So now we're asking ourselves, okay, how many times does x go into negative 7x squared? Well, the answer is negative 7x times, because negative 7x times x is negative 7x squared. And then we also have to take negative 7x times negative 2, which ends up being positive 14x. Alright, so next we subtract. So we have negative 7x squared minus negative 7x squared, which is the same as negative 7x squared plus 7x squared, which is going to be 0. We have 16x minus 14x, which is 2x. And then we bring down the negative 4. So we have 2x minus 4. And we ask ourselves, how many times does x go into 2x? Well, the answer is twice. 2 times x equals 2x. Then we do 2 times negative 2, and we get negative 4. Then we subtract. And in this case, 2x minus 4 minus 2x minus 4 is 0, with no remainder.